Back by popular demand, part 3 of ranking anime protagonists by their chances of impressing Saitama, the hero with the power of parody and gag on his side. Not every character used in this series will be from an anime specifically, but are anime adjacent. So to keep things simple, the title remains. My view on Saitama can be summed up at the start of the first video in this series, so feel free to check that out after watching this one. Otherwise, I'll just be saying the same stuff at the start every time. Keep clarifications in mind, try not to crash out, and most important of all, use protection. Wrong script. Wait, here we go. Have fun. That was it. Important. These rankings are based on the concept that the protagonist in question battles Saitama in a random encounter after some kind of misunderstanding and has this one interaction to leave an impression on him. Just a quick clarification before we start, these gradings don't necessarily mean one character is strictly stronger than another for placing higher or lower. It can purely be down to the way Saitama perceives them differently due to their power set's complexity or the person's general vibe. One character's overall nature might leave more of an impression on Saitama within the fight, even if that character is destructively beneath that of another who placed worse. Alright, let's punch through these tiers, which I've related to loose quotes from the series. Okay denotes that their powers or overall interaction doesn't leave much of an impression on Saitama, and he's keen to just kinda get through it. You're kinda fast implies that Saitama's impressed to some degree, even if they're nowhere near his level. Serious series is because their powers are kind of weird, or because their efforts inspired him. Saitama's chosen to bust out one of his traditional or improvised killer moves, such as serious punch, serious sidesteps, etc. You're strong is a reference to when he told Boros he was strong, so I'm using that as a way to say that even though Saitama's limitlessness was too much for them, he was able to recognize the intense level they brought to the dance. And finally, we have a dream, which is a fun way of saying that Saitama's fought someone so powerful that he's begun to wonder if this is the same as that dream he had with the Subterranean King, a fight so enjoyable that it couldn't possibly be real, a fight that's taken him to new heights he's had yet to experience. Bursting onto the scene as the first contender of the video, Denji from Chainsaw Man has been given a very serious task from Makima. Yes, a new devil has been rumored to have appeared and is causing great despair, the Bald Devil. With hair transplant failures and useless drug options more prevalent than ever, the fear of balding has given rise to a devil who the public safety devil hunters can no longer ignore. And so, off Denji went, eager to impress the lovely Makima by carving out a chainsaw bladed scalp. Ugh, that's not a fun mental image. After lurking around town for some time, Denji spotted a rather chirpy bald man in an odd superhero outfit strutting down the road with a groceries bag in hand, blood and body parts scattered all around him. Of course, Saitama had just defeated a monster on his way back from shopping, but to Denji, it looked, at first glance, like they were mushed up remains of people from the Bald Devil's rampage. So while Saitama was rather pleased with himself for bagging a good bargain from the store and taking out a monster on the way home as a bonus, he was soon being attacked by young Denji, chainsaws and all, after watching him pull some kind of horde on his chest. Denji wouldn't be able to do anything to Saitama, so the bald hero would effortlessly dodge all manner of attacks from Denji while keeping his grocery bag safe. And if he felt that dropping his products would soon become a possibility, a simple chop would sit Denji down and bring a halt to those spinning blades while telling him to knock it off. And as the two of them are trying to come to terms with the misunderstanding, it'd be in perfect One Punch Man fashion that the real Bald Devil shows up down the block, causing mayhem, prompting Saitama to point and say, "See, you can't assume all bald people are the same. Everyone's their own person." Then, as you can imagine, a singular punch ends the monster Denji was actually looking for before they part ways, with Saitama likely forgetting about who he thought was some kind of over-eager chainsaw cyborg hero, leaving Denji to go in the okay tier. Up next, we have a true icon of Western animation with Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's very difficult to imagine a scenario where Aang would feel compelled to attack a random person out of the blue without stretching one hell of a narrative, but either way, I think he'd almost certainly have some of Saitama's attention. While I love Aang, it's clear he doesn't have the same destructive capabilities or attributes as some higher tier characters to dish out or take outlandish amounts of damage. However, I think his mastery over his craft combined with his warm, pure nature would make up for it in a random encounter. In episode 1 of the One Punch Man Season 2 specials, Saitama makes it clear to some goons with minor powers that if you've been blessed with special abilities like fire and ice, then you should do your best to make the most of their potential. And Aang is a character who has done exactly that, which I think would earn him a lot of respect once he sees this little kid with the power to impressively bend water, fire, earth, and air. Sure, none of it could bother Saitama, but as he's being blasted into the air by earth pillars, whisked around through the sky with airbending, caught in blazes of fire, and dunked down into masses of spiraling water, it'd be very clear to Saitama that this bundle of energy has committed much time, energy, energy and experience into making the most of his special powers. And, naturally, he's gonna have to ask about that shiny head. "Aren't you a little young to have a head which looks like mine?" Saitama would probably ask before it finally dawned on him. "Oi, kid, did you do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day while also not using the AC during the summer too?" I think they'd have a fun, flashy, and comical interaction if they ever encountered each other under conditions which led to a brief scrap, with Aang earning a "you're kinda fast" tier for his speed, kind nature, and mastery of the elements despite being so young, even if he's not as strong as some of the others around and beneath his tiering on the list compared to prior videos. Just to touch on something before we move on, some people out there try to say Aang is moon level, but that's nonsense, and I'm absolutely not buying that or any of the other magic beans you might be trying to sell me. And now, it's time for a masterclass in espionage, because we have Agent Twilight, also known as Loid Forger from Spy Family. Oh, you think you know how this is going to go, do you? Okay, we'll see. Wise has gotten wind of a powerful individual on vacation in the area, a so-called hero, but didn't know if it was a ruse from a different country for planting a sleeper agent within the country. And so, there was Loid, staking out the Caped Baldy's lodging. Unbeknownst to Saitama, Loid watched from across the street as he read manga, watched TV, and sometimes even stared blankly in the mirror for moments on end. Odd, but normal enough. Then, in the afternoon, Loid followed the bald man throughout the street, sticking to the shadows and corners, tailing him into a supermarket with bargains advertised in the shop window. Saitama entered, and Loid thought it interesting. Perhaps this was a chance to spot him picking up suspicious items. Using his disguise kit, Loid snuck into the store and took on the appearance of an employee after putting them into a light sleep by a sleeping powder in their coffee. With their apron and name badge, Loid exchanged words with Saitama at the till, acting as a typical polite worker while observing his items at the checkout. Bread, noodles, chicken, and eggs. Normal. Very normal. Loid stared at the eggs for a moment, then to Saitama, lost in thought as to if there was some kind of secret motive to these items he was missing. Saitama, somewhat confused, asked, "Hey, are you thinking the eggs look like my head?" To which the disguised Loid laughed and snapped out of his thought process, politely saying he just spaced out from a long workday before letting Saitama go on his way. Then off Saitama went, and Loid followed further, ditching his worker disguise and picking up a new one, trailing the Caped Baldy to the riverside on his walk home where he stopped. A secret meeting? A pathway to a hidden base? No, he was just feeding the ducks some bread. Approaching, disguised as a regular civilian, Loid chatted with Saitama, trying to get some idea of the man's nature. Was this seemingly very bland man really a superhero, and a powerful one at that? Loid wasn't sensing bad intentions from him. He just wanted to know if there were any cheap but good barbecue places around for the next day. Then suddenly, a loud crash in the near distance and a monster appeared, with Bond and Anya being chased past toppling cars. Anya had followed Loid out to see what spy work he was getting up to, and now she was in danger from a sudden monster attack, so he had to act. But wait, before he could find a solution, that bald-headed man had vanished from the riverside. In a flash, he punched the monster into a spray of nothingness, saving Bond, Anya, and other panicked citizens from its sudden rampage. Just like that, it had seemed clear to Loid that he really was just some hero on holiday, a hero who would protect people no matter where he was, and Loid would be glad to report back to Wise that there was nothing to worry about, all while Saitama never knew otherwise. Okay tier for Loid Forger, since Saitama never knew they truly met. Not bad for a super simplified Spy Family cross One Punch Man crossover, huh? From espionage, we move to martial arts with Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. Saitama once wanted to learn about martial arts more when he took the time to enter the Super Fight tournament. However, no one there was strong enough to really give him the right idea, despite all of them being great practitioners themselves. However, we have someone here who's stronger, faster, and tougher than Suryu. Could Kenshiro be the one to teach Saitama a little something about martial arts? Faster than light with punches that can rock continents. While this classic protagonist isn't someone who'd be able to defeat Saitama with his skills, I think he's certainly got enough about him to inspire Saitama to try some martial arts of his own, be it through the right or wrong understanding. With all of those deadly techniques on display, performed with mind-blowing speed and power, Saitama would surely be inspired to give it a little go himself. If Suryu could convince him to try a spinning attack with his hip, then Kenshiro would certainly get him to go a step above or two. I'm going with serious series for Kenshiro. The extraordinary genius of combat has the physical attributes to show his best stuff without being punched off into the sky immediately, and it'd certainly inspire some kind of goofy martial arts attempt from Saitama in response to comically end their duel, like an off-balance spin kick which tears the crotch area of his suit from the stretch. He'd certainly understand martial arts a little more from this encounter than he did from the Super Fight tournament. That is for certain. And finally, we end the video with a full counter. Yes, it's Meliodas from 7 Deadly Sins. First of all, I want to say that I never finished this show because somewhere along the way, it just kind of lost me. But I am aware that Meliodas is incredibly strong from my time of watching the show, and also with some manga research to fill in the gaps. With access to incredible magic and demonic powers, Meliodas is truly a foe who would gain Saitama's attention. Expert combat techniques, vast power, and overwhelming attributes would allow him to hit Saitama with all manner of impressive attacks on scales of both strength and speed which surpass that of what moons or even potentially a planet could handle. While I don't think full counter would help him much with Saitama, since that's all raw power there with no magic involved, whether it does or doesn't wouldn't change the outcome of the battle anyway, and would be more of a footnote within their overall exchange, as opposed to anything which would change how things would go. This is Saitama after all, and judging from what heights we know he can go to, full counter, if it did work on Saitama's attacks for the sake of the argument, would eventually get overwhelmed or gotten around by Saitama's sheer strength, speed, and tenacity. Regardless of that, taking into account everything Meliodas has, while it is certainly outstanding even by the standards of many popular anime protagonists, it would still fall short to Saitama. However, it would, in my mind at least, earn some worthwhile approval which goes above serious series, similar to that of which I applied to Naruto in part 2 of this series. Massive levels of skill and power, along with what those demon marks can do for him, and Meliodas the tier ranking of You're Strong. So there you have it, part 3 on how Saitama would rank encounters with popular protagonists based on how much they would impress him after random and misunderstood physical confrontations, mostly gauged by a varying mix of their power, vibe, and interaction. I'll keep doing these if people keep watching them, so make sure to like and share with your buddies to keep them doing well. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe so the channel can grow, leave a like, and you're welcome back anytime to the channel of Saitama World. Go watch those other parts if you haven't.